Welcome to Balanced But Barely, a podcast for anyone who looks like they have it all together, but internally has about 47 tabs open in their mind. I'm Carla Jean Lundgren, and each episode we talk real-life stress, anxiety, and self-regulation in a way that actually makes sense. You'll walk away with practical tools to feel calmer, think clear, and create more balance without needing to hide underneath your weighted blanket by 2 p.m. My balanced but barely moment this week is very petty. I'm going to give you that warning right now. So I traveled over the weekend to do a talk on mindfulness and business at a reseller's small business event. And so lots of travel, time changes, all of that. I'm on the last leg of my travels home after a long flight, long day in the airport. I literally was there and back within less than 48 hours. I'm already an impatient driver, but I don't know does anyone else have this problem in their town? There are 2 lanes on our highway. We don't live in a huge city. And for some reason, everyone thinks that the left lane is the cruise lane. We're just going to stay in the left lane and we're going to cruise. And I get so frustrated because they don't cruise at like a comfortable pace. They cruise at exactly the speed limit. So again, petty warning. Yes, we should go the speed limit. I'm not advocating for you to speed. I'm just saying when I drive, sometimes it is not exactly at the speed limit. So I'm driving home. I just want to get home. I'm so tired. And I found myself wanting to just lay on my horn. I wanted to scream. I was tired. I needed a shower. Oh my goodness. It definitely knocked me off balance. I had to use some of my tools that I've talked about here about recentering, rebalancing. And I had to remind myself that these people who choose to cruise in the left lane instead of using it as a passing lane. So if you're confused because you're like, hey, I do that. The left lane is cruise. No, it's not. It's not cruise. It's pass. So if you want to cruise, you stay out of the left lane. The left lane is for passing, guys. Anyways, I had to remind myself that the people in front of me, they're just living their lives. They don't have any idea that I just spent 48 hours traveling across the country and back, changing through 3 time zones and needing a shower and all of that. They don't know that. They don't know that I need to get past them. Now, they have their driver's license, so I'm assuming they did pass their driver's test, which clearly tells them that the left lane is the passing lane, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, that is my balanced but barely moment, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Please let me know what your balanced but barely moment was this week. Pop it into the comments or just let me know that I'm not alone. Anyone else agree? Left lane passing, right lane cruising? All right, let's get into it. Today's affiliate is Poshmark, the #1 social marketplace where you can buy, sell, and connect with people whose style you love. Go to Poshmark.com and use promo code CarlaJean143, that's CarlaJean143 to sign up and receive $10 just for you. Hello, friend, and welcome back to Balanced But Barely. I'm your host, Carla Jean Lundgren, and today we're talking about depression. But before we get started, I wanted to say something important. If you've ever struggled with depression, you already know that it's one of the most misunderstood experiences a person can have. Because from the outside, it can look like laziness or weakness. It could look like lack of motivation, not trying hard enough, being negative, being dramatic, being ungrateful. I've heard that one a few times. But depression isn't a character flaw. It's not a moral failing. And it's not something you can always fix with a gratitude journal or a walk around the block. Sometimes those things help, but sometimes they don't. Today, we're going to have an honest conversation about what depression actually feels like, why it affects so many people, practical tools that may help, and when to seek support. And also, how to talk to yourself with compassion when you're struggling. And if you're listening because someone you love is experiencing depression, I hope this episode helps you understand them a little bit better. One important note before we continue. This episode is emotional and supportive, but it's also not a substitute for professional mental health care. If at any point you are having thoughts of harming yourself, feeling unsafe, or thinking about suicide, please contact emergency services in your area or reach out to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by texting or calling 988 in the United States. Help is available 24 hours a day. Okay, let's talk about depression. Most people think depression means feeling sad, and sometimes it does, but often it's much more complicated than that. And for many people, depression feels like exhaustion, numbness, hopelessness, disconnection, difficulty concentrating, lack of motivation, loss of interest in things they used to enjoy, and feeling like everything takes more effort than it should. Sometimes it feels like carrying a backpack full of bricks that no one else can see. Everything becomes heavier, simple tasks become complicated, and then people start asking questions like, why don't you just get out more? Or why don't you just think more positive? Or have you tried being grateful? That's my least favorite one, by the way. And while those comments are usually well-intended, they often miss the point because depression isn't simply a thinking problem. It's often affecting your energy, your nervous system, your sleep, your concentration, your body, and your sense of hope. And one of the hardest parts of depression is that it often lies. It tells you things like nothing will ever change, you're a burden, no one cares, you're failing, or it's too late. And when you're depressed, those thoughts can feel incredibly convincing. But feelings are not always facts. Thoughts are not always truths. And depression is not always a reliable narrator. Let's do this first mindfulness activity together. I want you to take a nice, deep, slow breath in and out. And then let's take another nice, deep breath in and out. And without trying to change anything, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Not what I think I should feel, not what I wish I was feeling. What is actually here? Maybe it's sadness. It could be anger. Maybe it's exhaustion or numbness. Could even be uncertainty. See if you can simply acknowledge it, because sometimes healing begins with honesty. Some of the most successful and most accomplished individuals live with or have lived with depression. You would not even classify them as lazy or weak, so why do we think that about ourselves? I've lived with depression for as long as I can remember. I am actually a proud card-carrying member of the Mental Health Trifecta Club. You know, anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Each one has its challenges, but I think depression is the hardest one for people in my life to understand because I don't look depressed, whatever that is supposed to look like, but I don't look depressed. They see me when I'm anxious and witness the techniques I use to regulate my nervous system. They understand my PTSD because they see the fear that I have in certain situations or when I experience a trigger. But depression is trickier because I am successful, driven, empathetic. I'm energetic, expressive, and loving. That's not the picture of depression for most people, but the reality is that it really is. We just don't talk about it. Think of some of the celebrities that have suffered with depression and were highly successful and influential that you didn't even realize had depression until they committed suicide and it was publicized. Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade. Would you have described any of them as lazy or weak? I wouldn't have. Depression is an unwelcomed beast that is heavy, dark, and very ugly. It's something that always feels like it's chasing me, and if I slow down, it will catch me, and who knows what will happen then. So I keep moving. I keep achieving. I continue to try and prove to the beast that it's not in charge and it's not going to get the better of me. I used to fight it and exhaust myself even more. Now I let the beast feel victory for a day or so, and then I escape when I feel stronger. I let my people know that I'm having a tough day and I need to recharge. For me, this means making a nest in my bed, turning off the lights, turning on the crappy TV, adding junk food and jammies, and absolutely no people. There's no judgment or what I should be doing with my time or who I might be letting down or feeling sorry for myself for not being normal, whatever that is. I haven't always known how to manage my depression. I've been medicated, not medicated, and then back to being medicated all my life. I've tried gratitude, the happy light, supplements, shadow work, therapy, yoga, meditation, exercise, dietary changes. The list can go on and on and on. What works for some doesn't work for everyone, and what helps now may not help in the future. For me, the beast has evolved and adapted to my methods, so I have to evolve and adapt to new methods. This used to make me feel like I wasn't doing it right, like I couldn't even do depression right. How ridiculous is that? Or that I was going to feel that way forever. And what I now know is that I need a toolbox of beast tamers. Some tools I use daily for when the weight of the beast isn't too heavy, but the beast's chatter is loud enough to be distracting. That might be daily walks, yoga, meditation, maybe calling a friend. Some tools I need to pull out when the weight and the noise from the beast is messing with my ability to function in a way that feels safe and comfortable. Sometimes it's medication, talking to a therapist, a series of 30-second hugs, crawling into my nest, or even a combination of all of them. Over the years, I've learned the warning signs for me when the beast gets too heavy and dark, when none of my tools are working, and I know I have to find a new tool. When I don't necessarily want to hurt myself, but I don't have enough energy to care if I got hit by a bus. I know I need a new tool or a new combination of tools when that starts to happen. Giving up on myself is not an option, and neither is living in this constant state of suffering. So I get to know my triggers, the warning signs, and I name the beast so he can't hide. I am not weak because I live with this beast. I am actually stronger in spite of him. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're depressed is assuming they should be functioning normally. You tell yourself, I should be doing more. I should be stronger. I should have this all figured out. I should be over this by now. And every should becomes another weight that you're carrying. I call this shoulding on yourself. I tell myself and I tell others when I hear a lot of shoulds come in, I just say, stop shoulding on yourself. We don't should around here. So feel free to take that funny little note. And depression often requires a different approach. Instead of asking what's wrong with me, try asking what might I need right now? That question changes everything. Research from Kristen Neff has shown that self-compassion is associated with improved emotional resilience, lower anxiety, and reduced depression symptoms. Self-compassion isn't making excuses. It's treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer someone you love. If your best friend was struggling, would you tell them they're lazy? Would you tell them they're weak or broken? Probably not. Yet many of us speak to ourselves that way every day. Let's do this together. Place one hand over your heart and take a nice deep breath in. Silently repeat, this is a difficult moment. I am not alone in struggling. May I be kind to myself right now. Let's say that again. This is a difficult moment. I am not alone in struggling. May I be kind to myself right now. Notice what happens in your body. You don't have to believe the words completely. Just allow yourself to hear them. When I was a teenager, I didn't have a name for my depression. I didn't know what the weight and the noise was or where it was even coming from. I was a good student. I played sports. I had a lot of friends. I had 2 jobs and a boyfriend, and somehow still felt unlikable, unsuccessful, unproductive, and unattractive. The beast that was my depression created a filter that distorted reality into self-criticism and disconnection. Depression wasn't openly discussed or diagnosed like it is today, so at that time, many adults categorized me as being sad and moody. I'm not saying I wasn't sad and moody as a teenage girl, but that was the answer to all of it, and it was not correct. I got advice like, just think of happy stuff, or you just need to stay busy. Or, but don't you have so much to be grateful for? mostly coming from a loving place, but very misguided. And as a teenager, I needed to hear, you matter and your feelings are valid. Although mental health support and advocacy has come a long way since the 90s, there is still a stigma and misunderstanding for a lot of people when it comes to depression. We seem to be okay talking about anxiety and PTSD, but depression still gets shoved in the shame corner. Anxiety and PTSD get assigned an external cause like trauma, social pressures, etc. But depression is assigned an internal cause, which places shame and blame on the individual. And ultimately, the individual is expected to help themselves in silence. If I could talk to my teenage self, first, I would tell her she's not fat and please be nicer to our mom. Second, I would encourage her to be honest with her counselor. And lastly, I would tell her that so many other people feel the same way she does, and it's not her fault. Let's talk about something many people struggle with, and that's asking for help. Especially if you're the strong one, the helper, the caretaker, the problem solver, the person everyone leans on. Depression often convinces us to isolate, to withdraw, to disappear. But connection is one of the most important protective factors for mental health. That doesn't mean you need 100 friends. Sometimes it just means you need one trusted person, one conversation, one therapist, one support group, one honest text message. Because depression thrives in secrecy. Connection creates opportunity for support. And asking for help is not a weakness. It is a skill and a courageous one. So here are a couple signs that it may be time for you to seek professional support. Consider reaching out to a mental health professional if any of your symptoms last more than 2 weeks, if you're struggling to function at work or at home, if you're withdrawing from relationships, if your sleep or appetite changes significantly, if you feel hopeless most days or more than half the days in a week, or if you experience thoughts of self-harm or suicide. Professional support can include therapy, counseling, support groups, medication, lifestyle interventions, or a combination of approaches. And I encourage you to try them all. If you try one and it doesn't work for you, you're not feeling connected, you're not feeling supported in a way that you need for your lifestyle and your personality, please try another one. Try another counselor. Try another support group. Try a different medication, because I have tried them all and you just have to keep trying. I think I probably went through in my whole life about a dozen therapists until I found the one that I absolutely loved, and I stayed with her for over 10 years. So it wasn't that therapy didn't work for me. It's just that the therapist that I was meeting at that time in my life was not the right match. And there's no shame in using these available tools. I personally have gone on and off medication throughout my whole life. Although I rely on movement, yoga, meditation, friends, therapy, and other self-care practices to manage my symptoms and regulate my nervous system, there are a few times when those tools stop becoming effective. For me, I know it's time to medicate when I become overly weepy. Now, I cry easily already, when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I'm mad, but this is different. The weeping is constant and it's not provoked. It just happens for no reason. And it is accompanied by extreme despair. It is also partnered with the feeling of wanting to fall asleep and just not wake up. This exhaustion and the lack of hope starts to bubble over. And for me, the medication helps to bring me from that boil to a simmer. And when I'm at a simmer, I'm able to give more attention to my self-care tools and move through whatever stressors I am currently experiencing. Medication is a temporary solution for me, but for others, it might be a long-term aid. Only you know what helps you. Take a slow breath in and ask yourself, who feels safe? Who listens without judgment? Who would want to know if I'm struggling? Just write down one name, just one, because connection has to start somewhere. I think one of the most overlooked and least supported demographics of those suffering with depression are young mothers. I'm not just talking about postpartum depression. I'm talking about beyond that and after the first baby. Young women raising and caring for young children are often isolated from connecting with others just by the nature of tending to babies and little ones. Their primary source of connection these days is through social media, and we all know how positive social media is, right? And then there's this expectation that the children are well taken care of at all costs, even if that means these young mothers lose their ability to feel joy and may even have feelings of harming themselves. Not only are they dealing with depression, but now they're dealing with the guilt of thinking about leaving their family. It's a compounded problem. One feeds the other and vice versa. From my own experience, depression is exhausting and the thief of joy. Before I found the support and tools that fit my lifestyle and my personality, I couldn't imagine living my whole life in that state. Could you imagine not being able to enjoy joyful moments with your children and then feeling too guilty to say that out loud so that you are constantly living in this dark shame corner? Maybe you don't have to imagine it, and I'm really sorry if that's the case. I want you to know that you're not alone, you are not a burden, and that you matter. Here's a few resources that I would like to offer you. There's 3 books, and I will also put these in the show notes on the website on carlajean143.com for you to reference later. The first book is called Feeling Good by David D. Burns. It's a well-known cognitive behavioral therapy resource that helps readers identify negative thinking patterns and develop healthier ways to respond to them. The second is called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, an important resource for understanding trauma, PTSD, chronic stress, and how emotional experiences affect the body and the nervous system. And then the last one I'd like to offer you is called Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff. This book provides practical tools for reducing self-criticism, increasing resilience, and navigating difficult emotions with greater compassion. And finally, the most important resource that you may ever be given is if you or someone you know is struggling, there is help out there. You can call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline or call or text 988 within the United States. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for anyone experiencing emotional distress, suicidal thoughts, a mental health crisis, or concern for a loved one. If there is immediate danger, please call emergency services right away. You do not have to wait until things get worse before you ask for help. Before we go, I want to leave you with this. Depression may be part of your experience, but it is not your identity. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your hardest day. You are not your darkest thought, and you are not broken. You are a human being navigating something difficult, and difficult things deserve support, not shame. If all you did today was listen to this podcast, that counts. If all you did today was get out of bed, that counts too. If all you did today was keep going, that counts too. Sometimes progress looks dramatic. Sometimes it just looks like surviving a Tuesday. All right, that's what I have for you today. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Share it with someone who may need a reminder that they don't have to carry everything alone. You can connect with me on Instagram at _Carla Jean 143. For additional resources, yoga, meditation, mindfulness practices, and wellness tools, visit www.carlajean143.com and follow me on YouTube at Carla Jean 143. Remember, if you are struggling, reaching out for support is a sign of strength, not weakness. This is Balanced But Barely. I'm Carla Jean Lundgren, and we're figuring this out together.